Japan's shadow world of suits, swords, and strict codes of honor has fascinated audiences for decades. But behind the tattoos and rituals lies a deeply complex reality. Originally formed as gambler and merchant groups in the 1600s, the Yakuza evolved into highly structured criminal syndicates that came to dominate Japan's underworld by the 20th century. And where there's crime, there's cinema. From grim post-war dramas to hyper-violent bloodbaths, Yakuza films have become a genre all their own, a way for Japanese filmmakers to explore loyalty, masculinity, violence, and social decay. Directors like Kinji Fukasaku, Takeshi Kitano, and Takashi Miike didn't just depict gangsters. They redefined them, in many cases, into sympathetic heroes, rightly or wrongly. So today we're diving headfirst into some of the most iconic Yakuza films ever made, including my ranking of them, with explanations as to why you should, and in some case shouldn't, watch them. How did I rank these films? Well, I've got a bit of background in Japanese films, having watched hundreds of them, maybe close to 1,000, and even programming a monthly Japanese film night program over a 7-year stretch at a theater in my home country. These included films from all different genres, and yes, I did show a few of these on the list today. For me, the best of the best Yakuza films combine the group hierarchy, political backstabbing, the Yakuza code of ethics, which are in real life highly debatable as to being ethical at all, and of course some sort of tragic protagonist. These films are usually, considering the subject matter, a lot more violent than normal Japanese films, though if you really think about it, classic samurai films have a lot, and I mean a lot, of people being sliced and diced with swords. I'll try and mention the ones that have extreme violence so you can choose whether or not you want to watch them yourself. And finally, big choice for the top tier of these movies, the films must move me on some level. An important note before starting, my ranking only includes films that I've watched and have been officially released with English subtitles. There is a whole horde of great films, primarily from the 60s and 70s, that are only available in Japanese. Most notably, the Abarashi Prison series starring one of the most iconic Yakuza actors, and Japanese actors in general, Ken Takakura, and the Satan's Sword trilogy, which traces the moral spiral of the character who was first introduced in the classic samurai film Sword of Doom. And there are lots more straight-to-video, low-budget releases in the 80s and 90s that are almost impossible to find these days, especially with English subtitles. Alright, well, let's get down to the rankings. I think the tiers are pretty much self-explanatory. Got the best of the best at the top. These are ones I highly recommend. Great and must watch, again, just slightly lower than those. Solid, definitely good to watch. Okay, if you're running out of things to watch, you've seen all the other ones, you can watch them, but it's not really that important. And the ones that you absolutely don't need to waste your time on. So, the first film on my list is Agitator from 2001. Okay, so we're starting off with one that most people have probably never heard of, but it's one of my favorites. Agitator, directed by Takashi Miike, as I mentioned, you'll hear his name quite a few times in this list, stars the recognizable Naoto Takenaka and Kenichi Endo, both of whom became quite famous as actors inside and outside of the Yakuza genre. This film is a more or less traditional modern Yakuza tale of a violent power struggle between fractions of the Yakuza after an ambitious boss tries to consolidate control by any means necessary. It's a slow burn of a movie with a long runtime, so it won't be for everyone. But it covers just about everything you want from a modern Yakuza film, and highlights Miike's growing skills as a director. And there are quite a few violent moments of all kinds in this film, so again, know what you're getting into if you choose to watch this one. But, and I'm sure some of you will disagree with me on my very first choice, but this is a top notch in the genre, in the best of the best category. The ranking for the next film is sure to rustle a few feathers with those die-hard Yakuza movie fans. Battles Without Honor or Humanity is a series of 5 films from the 1970s. I'm going to lump them all together, but the first one is probably the best, directed by the genre-defining Kinji Fukasaku, and are a semi-documentary style chronicle of the post-World War II Yakuza wars in Hiroshima and beyond. Many fans consider these a brutal and raw landmark series in Yakuza films, and often even credit them with starting the more modern depiction of Yakuza on the screen. But while I do respect the actual importance of these films to the genre, they really did nothing much for me. The storylines were disjointed, the characters were confusing and often unlikable, and yes, I know that for most part Yakuza should be unlikable, and I just haven't been able to get into the 1970s action-packed style of film like these. So, and please don't shoot me, I'm putting these into ones that are fine, but you can skip as essential watches. There are so many better films, even from Fukasaku, to spend your time with. So we'll put this in okay, but you can skip. This next film I'm going to do is not really a Yakuza movie, but it involves the Yakuza as the bad guys. Many people have probably already seen this, as it is a Hollywood production from the excellent director Ridley Scott, Black Rain from 1989. The film stars Michael Douglas, Andy Garcia, and the late great Japanese actors Ken Takakura and Yusaku Matsuda, and is about 2 NYPD detectives escorting a captured Yakuza member back to Japan, only to lose him and become entangled in a deadly gang war in Osaka. Now, it's really more of an East meets West movie, and I really dislike the Michael Douglas character himself, but it is gorgeously shot. It gives Westerners first glimpse into the world of the Yakuza, and it stars Ken Takakura. I was going to put this into the same category as the last film, but upon second thought, maybe I'll slot it into the solid category. It did get nominated for a couple of Academy Awards, which I can't really say for many of these films, but let me know what you think. So let's put Black Rain into solid. Next up is Branded to Kill from 1967, directed by Seijun Suzuki. Now, all of Suzuki's films are probably going to get me in a bit of trouble, as most critics really rate them highly. Except me. I just can't get into his 1960s noir style of cinematography at all. It's a surreal story of a rice-sniffing hitman that gets targeted by his own Yakuza organization after botching a job. The film has cult status internationally, but I'm putting it into the okay, but you can skip it tier. If you like surreal stuff, or if you've never seen a Seijun Suzuki film, well, feel free to give it a try and see what you think. So let's put this into here. There we go. Next on the list is the first movie I'm covering from Takeshi Kitano. Kitano's a very acclaimed director and actor that makes all kinds and genres of films, but he really cut his teeth and became famous with the Yakuza genre in the 1990s. I'll cover a lot of his movies, but first let's talk briefly about Brother from 2000. It stars Kitano himself as a disgraced Yakuza who moves to the US and starts to build a new gang there. I was surprised to see the American actor Omar Epps in the main role. He was fairly big at that time, and the movie itself was a lot better, especially among subsequent viewings, than I would have thought. Again, a bit of an East vs. West movie, but overall enjoyable and faithful to Kitano's style and storylines of his Yakuza tales. It was nominated for an award at the Venice Film Festival, and it's a good watch. I'll put it in the must-watch category. especially as it's one of the few films that actually takes place in the West. So let's put this in Swatch. Next up is Bullet Train from 2022. Directed by David Leitch and starring Brad Pitt and Hiroyuki Sanada of Shogun fame, the film tells this tale of a hapless assassin boarding a Shinkansen, or bullet train, full of other killers, some of which are linked to a powerful Yakuza boss. It's not really a Yakuza film, and it's not even really filmed in Japan or on a real bullet train. And even though it has Brad Pitt and Hiroyuki Sanada, who I both really like, I just couldn't get into its poorly done comic book style of story. Nothing much original here, and little if any authentic Yakuza content. I'd skip it. Sorry, Brad Pitt. Next up is Dead or Alive from 1999. Another film directed by Takashi Miike and starring Yakuza movie stalwarts Riki Takeuchi and Sho Aikawa. It's a pretty typical Miike Yakuza flick from the 1990s, centering around a battle between a Chinese gangster and a police officer. It has crazy, hyper, and surreal violence and pretty much puts the action over the plotline. It's not really my type of Yakuza flick, so I'll give it a pass. Miike has much better offerings. Like Deadly Outlaw Rekka from 2002. Now, I have to say off the top that this is one of my favorite Yakuza flicks. This Miike offering tells the story of a local Yakuza soldier going on a furious rampage of revenge once his boss is assassinated. The original Japanese title is Jitsuroku Gaiden Rekka and translates into something like the true side story of blazing fire or revenge or something like that, emphasizing a semi-realistic or mythologized side tale with intense fiery emotion. And boy, does it deliver. I usually don't like over-the-top performances, but Riki Takeuchi, along with his sidekick Kenichi Endo, make for a very entertaining ride. One thing you'll notice off the bat is the striking rock soundtrack to the film. Miike used a whole album in its entirety from the 1970s Japanese rock group The Flower Traveling Band to create a truly crazy, violent, yes, watch out, and sometimes funny take on traditional Japanese revenge story. Definitely over the top in almost everything that happens, but done really well. I won't say much, but there are some scenes in downtown Tokyo involving a rocket launcher. Anyways, it's top tier for me. Next on the list is by famed Japanese director Akira Kurosawa. Yes, the guy who made some of the best movies of all time, Seven Samurai, Rashomon. It's called Drunken Angel, and it was made in 1948. It stars, as in many of his films, Toshiro Mifune as a tubercular gangster who forms a volatile bond with an alcoholic doctor in post-war Tokyo. One of Kurosawa's very early films, it gives a very different view on gangsters in post-war Japan from the descriptions that come later. It's a great piece of storytelling, and if you're really interested in the gangster genre, something you should get around to watching. I'll put this in the solid tier. Next, let's get back to another Takashi Miike film, and in my opinion, one of his crazy best, and definitely one of his strangest movies, Gozu from 2003. Now, this isn't really a true Yakuza film in the traditional sense, but the story revolves around a main Yakuza character that stumbles around a very surreal Yakuza underworld. It's really more of a horror movie, in my opinion. And warning, this is not for the faint of heart. It's so strange and it's really difficult to explain more about. Just watch if you can handle some truly wacky violence, sex, and, well, I'll stop there. For me, it's a solid watch. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Now we'll continue with another offering by director Kinji Fukasaku, Graveyard of Honor from 1975. This movie goes directly into the must-watch category and is infinitely better than his before-mentioned Battles series. This was really the first Yakuza film that I watched where the main protagonist is not someone you could cheer for, even in a little way, perhaps closer to what the Yakuza are in real life. It tells the story of a psychotic gangster who is on a downward spiral of destruction and death. And this movie was so influential that Takashi Miike, yes, him again, made a remake some 25 years later. And Miike's Graveyard of Honor from 2002 is arguably just as good, if not better, than the original. Much the same storyline with a more modern and updated societal take on the story, and Miike has made it even bleaker and more nihilistic. I thought it was very well done, and I'll put it right alongside the original. Next, on to Hanabi, or Fireworks, from 1997 and directed by Takeshi Kitano. This film tells the story of a retired cop turned Yakuza who clashes with morality and mortality while caring for his dying wife. This is one of Kitano's masterpieces and won the Golden Lion Award at the Venice Film Festival. It's not an action-packed, heart-pounding gang vs. gang film, but like many of Kitano's films, a deeper look into the soul of the protagonist. Violence? Sure, there's more than enough of it, but this is one of the best Yakuza movies ever made. Watch it and you'll see a clear blueprint for many of Kitano's films that come later. Definitely best of the best. Now, in total contrast to Hanabi, let's look quickly at one of Takashi Miike's most famous, or should I say infamous films, Ichi the Killer from 2001. It stars Tadanobu Asano, again recently famed from the Shogun series, in his young prime. It tells the story of a sadomasochistic Yakuza enforcer that is hunting down a mysterious assassin. Like Gozu, this isn't really what I would call a Yakuza film, more like a film where the main characters are Japanese gangsters. This movie is perhaps the most violent film on this list and was actually banned in some countries. I'm gonna say skip this one unless you're really into strange, gory torture, as I don't really think it adds much to the genre at all. Let's put that. You don't need that one. Next up, we've got Kill Bill Volume 1 from 2003. I'm assuming everyone watching this knows about or has seen this film, and I'm including it on the list because there are stylized elements of the Yakuza that play a major role in it. I absolutely loved this Quentin Tarantino offering for its stylistic fusion of anime, samurai, and Yakuza film traditions, all put together by a director at his best. But it's not really a Yakuza movie, in my opinion, and I'll put it in the don't need to watch category if you're interested in authentic Yakuza genre films. So sorry, Kill Bill. Next, back we go again to Takashi Miike with his Ley Lines from 1999. It's a pretty standard Miike Yakuza flick about three disenfranchised youths seeking to escape from Japan's underbelly and finding out that it's not so easy to do. As I said, pretty standard and not as well done as some of his other films. At this stage in his career, Miike was pumping out something like 5 or 6 films every year, which was crazy. You can watch better than this one. Now, on to the big boys. Takashi Kitano's Outrage trilogy. In my opinion, the best series of Yakuza films out there, and the first movie, above all, is top tier. The original Outrage, 2010, is directed by and starring Kitano himself, and it came around at a time when Yakuza movies had pretty much run their course. Nothing of real value had been made for around a decade, and the genre was returning to straight-to-video releases. Then Kitano made this classic tale of betrayal and bloody retribution among Tokyo's Yakuza clans. He brought his well-developed directing skills by this point, and acting to a lesser degree, and tells a story that has all the requisite Yakuza film characteristics, like the Yakuza code of conduct, honor, well, kind of, political intrigue and backstabbing, more betrayal, interaction between the police and Yakuza, swords, guns, and bloody action. What more could you want? How about one of the best movie scores to complement a film in recent time? The title scene with the black Yakuza sedans is great. Watch it, watch it, watch it. Just be warned, there are a couple of very graphic violent scenes, and you might not want to go to the dentist anytime soon after this one. So let's put the first Outrage. There we go. The story continues in both the second movie, Outrage Beyond from 2012, and Outrage Coda from 2017, and I'm going to lump them together. All directed by, again, and starring Kitano, they incorporate more Yakuza clans and gangs with some really big-name actors in Japan. Everything you liked in the first film can be found in these as well. If anything, they might even be a bit more slow, with lots of political intrigue and backstabbing, punctuated by the occasional brutal outburst of violence. Again, if you're easily put off by violence, be warned. They are a definite must-watch in the genre, and I'm going to put them just slightly lower than the first Outrage, just because Kitano is, in my mind, trying to follow up on the success of the first movie too much in the following two, rather than just making the films as works that he wanted to do, as he did the first one. Again, so we'll put these in the great and must-watch category. If you're going to watch the series, make sure you do watch them in order. So Outrage the original, then Outrage Beyond or Beyond Outrage, and then Outrage Coda to wrap it up. Next, I'll move on to probably my favorite black and white Yakuza film, Pale Flower from 1964, directed by Masahiro Shinoda. Tells the story of a nihilistic gangster seduced by a mysterious woman addicted to the thrill of gambling and danger. It introduces in detail the Yakuza world of gambling, and its stylized cinematography is much cooler than Seijun Suzuki's previously mentioned films of around the same area, at least in my view. Mariko Kaga, the main actress in the film, also won the Japanese Blue Ribbon Award, which is their equivalent of the Oscars for Best Actress. If you're into black and white and into gambling, this one is great and a must-watch. Here we go there. Now we'll return to another offering by Takashi Miike, Rainy Dog from 1997. This film tells the story of a Yakuza hitman exiled in Taiwan who finds redemption through a mute boy and a prostitute. It's pretty standard Yakuza movie from Miike again. Nothing really notable about it, and I think you can skip it for better films in the higher tiers. But if you really love Yakuza movies, you could watch it. So that. There. On we go to another Hollywood film, Rising Sun from 1993, directed by Philip Kaufman and starring Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes, who were huge stars at this time. It was developed from the best-selling novel by Michael Crichton of Jurassic Park fame, and tells the story of two detectives investigating a murder at a Japanese corporation in Los Angeles, with links to the Yakuza. The book is not bad, but the movie, it's crap. Even with Sean Connery, avoid it at all costs. You won't get your time back. Back again to Takashi Miike's Shinjuku Triad Society from 1995. Again, a pretty standard Miike Yakuza film from the 90s, and tells the story of a clash between Japanese police and mostly Chinese gangsters in Tokyo. Again, there are much better options to watch, in my opinion. like Sonatin from 1993, again directed by Takeshi Kitano. Many think this is Kitano's best Yakuza film, and I can't disagree too strongly, just I liked Outrage better. This won an award at the Cannes Film Festival and tells the story of a tired Yakuza soldier sent to Okinawa, where he reflects on death, violence, and the futility of his life. Really, really well done film with lots of personal drama centered around a tragic protagonist, all set in the breathtaking beauty of Okinawa. As with all Kitano's Yakuza movies, there is some violence in it, but it's a must watch if you're interested in the genre. I'll just mention The Wolverine from 2013, directed by James Mangold, briefly because it does center around the Yakuza underworld, but it's not a real Yakuza film in any sense. I like Marvel movies in general. I love the X-Men comics and the Wolverine character, and Hugh Jackman as the main character is great, but the movie is so-so, with sometimes laughable portrayals of Japan, and has little to do with the actual genre. If you're looking for Yakuza films, you can skip this one as well. Now, not all Hollywood films about the Yakuza are bad. Really. In my opinion, one of the best Yakuza movies of all time is The Yakuza from 1974, directed by Sidney Pollack and starring both Robert Mitchum and the aforementioned Ken Takakura. It tells the story of an American private detective investigating a kidnapping in Japan, only to uncover a world of betrayal, violence, and Yakuza. This was probably one of the first Hollywood portrayals of the Yakuza, and Japan in general, that, though viewed from Western eyes, was a fairly good introduction for foreigners about Japan and Japanese culture. The film has great casting in the lead roles, and Ken Takakura is the ultimate Yakuza in my opinion. Definitely give it a chance, you won't be disappointed. Okay, next on the list is Tokyo Vice. Now, I know it's not a movie, but a two-season HBO TV series that started in 2022, but I'm putting it on this list because I think it's worth watching. It's not strictly a Yakuza tale either, but a story of an American journalist in Tokyo that gets dangerously involved with the Yakuza while working the crime beat for a newspaper. It's roughly based on the novel of the same title, which itself is roughly based on the true story of the author. I was impressed with the depiction of the 1990s Japan, and again, the West meets East storyline, and the acting and production was well done. It was also produced and has a few episodes directed by Michael Mann himself, so you can't go wrong there. It's a good starter watch for those that know little to nothing about Japan at that time and the criminal scene of Tokyo. Thoroughly entertaining. Give it a watch. Violent Cop from 1989 is Takeshi Kitano's directorial debut, and it's about a rogue cop that uses brutal tactics to bring down a Yakuza drug ring. You can see glimpses of his style and storytelling emerging here, but it's no way even close to his later works. Worth watching, but you can take it or leave it, in my opinion. Yakuza Graveyard from 1976, not to be confused with his other Graveyard movie already mentioned, is director Kinji Fukasaku's tale of a rogue cop spiraling out of control and into the Yakuza underworld. It's a familiar theme with Fukasaku's films, and while not as good as Graveyard of Honor, it's worth watching, especially if you enjoy Yakuza films from the 1970s. And last on my list is Youth of the Beast from 1963. It's another Seijun Suzuki film, so expect a very stylized 60s film noir style of Yakuza movie. This one is about a disgraced ex-cop that infiltrates two warring Yakuza gangs. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Suzuki's style, but if you like more avant-garde kind of stuff and filmmaking, you might enjoy this one. So I'll put it into the okay but can skip. So there you have it, my list of the best accessible films with English subtitles in the genre. There have been some very recent films that have come out, like Under the Open Sky, A Family, and The Blood of Wolves, but I haven't seen them yet. I'll come back to you in the future with ratings for them as well if you're interested, though I kinda doubt any will come in the top tier. As you can tell, I personally think the best Yakuza films offer a cool but tortured protagonist, an insight into gang structure and hierarchy, plenty of political backstabbing, and a healthy dose of violence. As however films might romanticize them, violence is what keeps real Yakuza in power. What do you think? I'm sure my ranking might ruffle some feathers. Want to call me out for putting Kill Bill in the bottom tier? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoy this type of movie, please check out my recommendations to watch. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video for more interesting and sometimes violent things from Japan.